done is one of my sisters, one of my other sisters, works for a shelter place in Roseville, the missing Indian people. Under domestic violence shelter and the reservations. She started a shelter there. Way long time ago. She was a good friend. And she got recognized by President Bush with this Stars and White thing, and President Clinton.
Yeah.
She was such a
It's me and Frank and Phyllis, and
Yeah.
literally, sorry I didn't picture you.
and they've,
Okay. Yeah, hopefully.
part of
Yep.
the program is for men now, too. But she said, you know, that the men don't receive instructions or anything about women as they're growing, and they become very violent, and we need to teach them. So they've got a program going for the men up there now.
Horses? With horses?
They've got that cheer, yeah.
We had a grave,
Gray eagle.
Oh, hi. See you.
Hey, I'm good, how are you? I should see that.
I see you. All over.
So Frank, they got word from their attorney. No. So you go ahead with that.
We'll talk about it in the state.
Yeah. Good interviews, I seen on TV.
Oh, the 6 month, did that come
Yeah,
up?
yeah, did real well.
Did that lady do good?
Yeah, she did very well.
Well, she better, I just tell them she did it about 4 times.
It better be good.
She got one really good one too. I was feeling real good. She said, oh God, I forgot to put it. So she had to do that about 3 times. So I had to, it was well rehearsed. Good.
She came to the trial too, she was there.
Was she? I didn't-
First, I felt hostile to her, you know, I was like, dang, she's come, you know, just with siding with them, you know. You don't know who your enemy is, you know, sometimes.
She was just a lady. She knows a lot about missing and exploited women. She come from Canada. She knew. She was asking. She was telling me what we're talking about. She did a lot of reporting. The Canadian government did act. And I said, well, people talking with her. She appreciated that.
One thing that we can do is, we can go ahead and have the people that agree with family and express their encouragement and condolences. But otherwise, we have no photos and no anything. So.
think so is you. She hurts me.
Was the day the same one?
Sounds like a gas station instead of.
He is always late. He's always late. Getting in someplace, I swear. Yeah, he's my own grandson.
Yeah, it'll be good.
I got a microphone up there for you guys. You can pass it around.
My legs can feel a lot. They do. They feel like they weigh a lot.
You weigh a lot,
Yeah.
or even just, oh my
So it was
goodness, that'd be so tiring.
Well, we did pretty good. Okay.
And take out. Yeah.
Hey, Frank.
Stick around until tomorrow. What's up? I'm assuming. I didn't need a radio thing. There's one here. We're not asking you to go up here. They may want to get some shots of the ground.
I just need cancer, so I believe we go back to the in Chicago. So we left for that for a week, and then we never should get everybody. It's pretty upsetting. I actually had a lawsuit going on this the city of Lincoln this year. So they marched from me saw them. So where they were songs and children.
Yes, I see that. I saw that.
So I looked on YouTube. I figured out how to sort myself. I was right from the it's sad that the justice system is hopeless, but you still have that second option, so let's do that. You guys are already preparing for that. Because they might be very difficult.
Yes.
Because it's sick. It's so obvious what they did. I saw it. I'm actually going to be it's hard to get people that are in positions to worry about it. They don't know for dollars.
Thank you, keep up the fight,
So we never think about
So we'll probably get started here in about 10 minutes or so. And give people a little more time to show up. Thank you all for joining us here.
Yeah. Really good.
Yeah, I think people about 5 more minutes. People might be on Indian time. What's that?
Who else is going to be up with the subject?
Might just be 2, but
Should I leave this up here just in case?
So I totally respect that.
What did I say? Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Feel free to grab some water or a cookie here. think we're going to get started here. Thank everybody for coming today. I sure appreciate that. I know this was last minute. Obviously, the verdict was yesterday, so this is something that we kind of had to put together pretty hastily. So I'm glad that people are here and willing to listen today, and hope you enjoy what you hear, or at least maybe learn something tonight. My name is Kevin Yabresk, and I'm just kind of helping organize this tonight. I kind of felt moved to. I'm a reporter for Indians.com. It's a Native American news website run by the Winnebago tribe. And I actually got to cover the trial over the past couple of weeks, and sit in there and listen to the testimony and sit with the family, and it was just a real learning experience. It was obviously very disappointing in the end, and even the process itself was very disappointing. The way that things were handled in the courtroom, some of the things that both the defense attorney, honestly, and the prosecutor said, a lot of things were very disappointing to hear. The way that things were presented. So anyway. With that, I'm just going to introduce the two people up here. This is LaMere on your left, my right here. And he's an activist from Winnebago. He runs a community center up in Sioux City, Iowa, and has been around. You've probably heard of LaMere. I probably don't need to introduce him too much. He's, I would say, the man who shut White Clay down. Sitting next to him is, as probably many of you know, Leo Yankton. And I would say he's a local activist, community organizer. And I'm just glad he's here as well. He sat in the courtroom as well for a couple of days and listened to a lot of testimony, and has some observations from that, and also some observations from what this trial kind of says about the state of I guess, mental health care, of other issues here in Nebraska. So I think he'll be sharing that as well. So we would like to start, though, with a prayer by Alfie Goombay. She's a member of the family, and Kiowa herself. Am I right in saying that? Okay.
Good evening. I am not new to injustice. My 84-year-old grandfather that I grew up with back in Southwest Oklahoma was a very strong man, a healer, what the white people call a medicine man. Very strong man. He was like to go and visit the street people, because all of his wife had died and his brothers had died. He was advanced in age, and so he liked to go visit the street people. He suffered from a stroke, and so it would make him kind of stumble when he walked. And so they threw him in jail in our county seat. They threw him in jail, and somebody within that jail cracked his skull open in that jail, and they never convicted anybody of his death. And so this is nothing new. 500 years we have endured the injustices that had been heaped upon us from the very beginning of time by the government. And so I'm not new that, it's an old nemesis, this injustice against our Native American people, but I'm here to say we're still here today. A lot of people say we're defeated, but we're not. As long as we're standing on this earth, as long as we dance upon this earth, and every step we take on this earth is a dance step, because that's how our God made it that way. We're still here today, and I'm telling you, and I want to encourage you, we are not a defeated people. We're still here today. There's a remnant of us. And there's a remnant of us who recognize the injustice, and there's a remnant of us that are going to do something about it. So we just need to pray. All of our Native American people for centuries, from time began, have always recognized there's something greater out there than themselves, their creator. And so all of our Native people, they understand the power of prayer. They understand the humility of prayer. They understand what it is to stand before God that made them and to show him respect. And so I just wanted to take this time. I was asked by Kevin to say a prayer. My husband and I have a church on the Omaha Indian Reservation. I'm not ashamed to say that I'm a Christian because Jesus Christ came into my heart and my life. And he really transformed me into something that was hard, into something good. And I became a praying woman, just like my mother and my grandmother and my great-grandmother's women that stood strong in God, and they were praying women. And I have seen great things happen here among the people here and back home because of the result of prayer. And I'm so thankful that Kevin had asked me to pray, and I would like to start that out. I also would like to say I'm glad y'all are here. The family here will not make any statements. They will not share any opinions. That they're here to be welcomed by you. If you would like to express condolences, if you'd like to express encouragement to them, I know that will empower them to take a stand. And so I encourage you to come up and just shake their hands. You know, if you have some gift to give, well, go ahead and do that. They know how that is. They will receive your well wishes and your encouragement. They will receive it from you. So you just have to forgive us that they're not going to be able to make any statements or be able to say anything. So just bear with us. Listen to what these men have to say. I think they have a very important message to share to all of us, to the world. So let's begin with prayer. Aho dak ya e. We come to you as a people with humility as we stand before you, recognizing that you are supreme being, that you are almighty, you are creator. You have created us in different ways, but you have loved us in our creation, Father, when you formed us. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful that you care for us and you hear us when we pray. You know, among our people, there's a song that we say to you, that we sing to you with all our hearts. It's aho dok iata ome, aho dok iata ome, dok zai bedo yata ome, dok zai bedo yata ome, yate kona yata ome, ma onde. And we lift that song up to you because it was a favorite song, a cherished love song of the one whose life was so tragically taken away. And we ask that you hear us. You hear our prayers. We know you are a good creator. You hear us when we pray, as that song says. So hear us as we pray, as these men in their speech, in their message that they have. It is a prayer they're lifting up to you. And we know that you hear when we ask in your name. And I pray this in your name, in the name of your Son, Dak Ya'i. Amen.
Take time to welcome all of you. Thank you. We've come together as a community. We've come together as a Native community, as a greater community over the last week in and out of courtrooms in Omaha. I've come to know some of the relatives here, and I'm very pleased to see them again tonight. And I'm understanding that they may depart tomorrow to go south. And when we get up early in the morning, we will offer well wishes and petition to the Creator that you have a good, safe trip. And that they welcome you, your relatives welcome you back, and that you reassure them. And I want first and foremost to say that and greet them tonight. I have had a chance to be with the rest of you over the last week as we try to take care of these matters in the courtroom in Douglas County, and I want to say thank you for taking time. Thank you for offering up prayers. We have had a lot of reflections. There have been a lot of prayers. There have been powerful prayers and petitions said over the last week, and we will continue to say those powerful petitions and prayers. I had an opportunity, I greet all of you, I had an opportunity tonight as I came over here just to meet the interim director here, and I greeted her, and I felt compelled just to tell her something as she comes here to lead this effort here in Lincoln, this center. And I shared with her a message that has helped me for decades. And I wanted to help her. I wanted to help all of you. And the guests who come here from Oklahoma and the guests from Lincoln tonight. I'll remind you of this because I have to remind myself of this all the time. You must always stand with the truth. You must always stand with the truth. And I share that with you as a reminder tonight because somebody mentioned white clay, and I'm reminded of that. Over those 20 years where we fought to stop the illegal sale of alcohol from Nebraska on to Pine Ridge to our Oglala Lakota neighbors, we learned many things. And one of them is that people will come to you when you tell the truth. They will come to you. Sometimes your own people will come to you and they will tell you to compromise because they may not be comfortable with what you're saying. Your own people will do that. They'll say, can you compromise? And I remember many of those over the years. Frank, they're talking about a compromise of perhaps closing down 2 of those stores and leaving 2 of them open. And you think about that and it sounds reasonable, but it's not, because it's not the truth. The truth is they all needed to be shut down. So we disagreed with that. Well, they're talking about legislation, and what they might do is we'll close everything down from here on out, but we'll leave these 4 stores open. We'll grandfather them in. And you think about that, and it sounds enticing. It sounds like you won something, but you won nothing, because the alcohol would still flow. So many along the way, I think some even fell by the wayside. Some drifted off because well, you know, Frank, he won't compromise. And I'm understanding the importance of compromising. So some did, some dropped off because we were drawing the hard line. And I'm happy to say that, you know, a year later now, it's shut down. And I say this about our own native people, maybe about Nebraskans too, but our own native people, there's something I come to know about standing with the truth. That is the fact. Many people have talked about it different ways, but you must always stand with the truth. And I think back and when all of the marches were done, when all of the petition drives ended, when all of the visits with the senators, the congressmen, when all of the hearings in the Liquor Control Commission, the Sheridan County Commission, the Supreme Court, all of the presentations given in colleges, universities, communities across our country, when all the arrests were done, you know, and I think back on that, when all of those hundreds of things were done, you know, the way our people look at it, I think about those many things and how we stood with the truth and the way our people see them. 20 years from now, they're not going to remember those petition drives. They're not going to remember the arrests. They're not going to remember the Supreme Court hearings, the Liquor Control Commission hearings, the Sheridan County board hearings. They're going to remember none of that. You know what our people are going to remember? They're going to remember the truth about white clay and who stood with it. That's the way we are. They're not going to remember, well, that person kind of stood with it. And this person kind of had ideas. They don't remember that. They remember who stood with it. That's the way we are. And I share that with our relatives who came here, you know, this past week from Oklahoma. You stand with the truth. And let them not cause you to compromise that truth. And I say sometimes it may take a long time. But at the end of the day, people will recognize that this family, they stood with the truth, and they stood with it till the end. And I share that with you. And so always in everything we do, even our own people are going to say, well, Jean, you're being too hard. And don't listen to it. You stand with the truth. You know what the truth is about this young man. Never forget that. And always remind others of it. So I share that with you as we come together tonight. That is a message I want to share with the relatives. The other thing we come to know in the past couple of days, we've talked about it quite a lot, is there's no coincidence. There's no coincidence. And I'll say it again tonight, each and every one of you, and I don't even know who you all are, for whatever reason you're directed to be here at this place, at this time, to talk about those things that come before us, to reflect on them, to pray about them. There's no coincidence. And we've come to know, as we gathered in this past week, that each and every one of us, for whatever reason, chosen to be here. Chosen to be a small part of something that is way bigger than we are. And the effort we took care of with our young Kyle relative, we'll never understand what that is about in our whole life because it's way bigger than we are. I shared that with the relatives, with the mother, and I shared that whatever's going on right now, way bigger than we are. But we're privileged to be a small part of something, a small part of Tunkashila's plan. And I want to remind us of that when things are not going our way. And I want to just turn my head and walk away from it. You cannot do that. We are chosen to be a part of something, and I think that we must be mindful of that, must remember that. The other thing that after we got home a couple days ago, and all of you, and I looked on that map, and it was very cold on Saturday, very cold. And we marched 4.4 miles. And coming from Sioux City to march that day, I didn't know if all of those there had the energy to do it. I didn't know if they had the will, didn't know if they had the nerve to do that. And I just thought to myself, whatever they wish to do, I'll do that. If they wish to drive there, we'll drive there. If they wish to simply offer up prayers at the bus station, we'll do that. But some in that family, I heard them say, we're going to walk all the way over there. And I said, well, that's good enough for me. And so we walked that. And somewhere that day or somewhere that night, somebody asked me something, well, Frank, you do this a lot. And I never really think about that too much. And how much time, how many times have you done this? Someone that walk in. And I said, I don't know. At rallies and marches, maybe 100 of them. I don't know. Maybe 50, maybe 100, probably closer to 100. So many I cannot even remember them. And I share that with you, and I share this with the Kiowa relatives, because when I got home on Sunday and Monday, I said something. This one was different than any of the rest of them. And I don't know why. And maybe I'm not smart enough to know why. But this one was much different. It was harder physically. It was harder emotionally. It was harder psychologically. But we did that. We did that together. And so I remind us of that we're a part of something that's much bigger than we are. And the other thing I want us to be very mindful of is that the importance of resolve and the importance of, we set about to do something when we started last week. We said something needs to change. We had talks together and we came to the realization that we don't win, we don't lose. We talked about going into that courtroom. If they find that man guilty, for a minute we might say, good, but what have we won?
does not bring back our relative. They find him not guilty. What have they won? What have we lost? Does not bring him back. We understood that day, and we continue to understand that this is way bigger than that. That this is something that's going to go on for some time. And at the end of this, I think we will have realized that we set about something that needed to be done for generations in Nebraska. And we're going to make impact with that. And at the end, our efforts are going to impact a lot more than one of our Kiowa relatives. It's going to impact Omaha relatives, Santee Sioux relatives, Winnebago relatives, Ponca relatives, Nakota, Lakota, Dakota relatives who have been lost in Nebraska at the hands of law enforcement. And this is a sad reminder of the work before us that starts anew, even yesterday and even tonight. And that's the way we have to think. Because this is not the first time we've gathered to ask questions, and sadly it will not be the last. But this is a reminder of the work before us, and we'll undertake to get some of that work done. Even today, a note I received from a member of the Winnebago Tribal Council said, appreciate all of the work that all of the relatives are doing. I lost my father at the hands of the Omaha Police Department decades ago. Never any answers. And I told my relative at the council, I said, send me that. Tell me what that is. And we're going to raise that issue. And now that we're talking about these issues, we're going to have relatives come from the four directions who say, I too lost somebody at the hands of the Omaha Police Department, the Lincoln Police Department, Gordon, Scotts Bluff, clear across the state, Sheridan County. We're going to talk about those things. And so this is much greater. We're going to take care of our relatives as best we can. And then we're going to take care of other relatives who suffer even still. And that's what's going to come about. I'm trying to sort this out. I think it has something to do with that. And I remind us of that. I want to also point out that things are happening very quickly. Early this morning, trying to map out a busy day, and I picked up a telephone and I looked at something that came from the World Herald, and there were some quotes I read as I was starting to work my way to Omaha about the chief of police was asked, now that there's been a finding of not guilty in the case in Omaha yesterday, are you going to rehire those four after they go to arbitration? And it occurred to me, I just glanced at it, that he said, I'm against that. And that's all I could see. I started down the road, and I looked and I felt good about that. You know, skeptical, but I felt good about that. And then the phone rang, and it was the chief of police from Omaha. And that's interesting. Had an interesting talk with him, and I will tell you exactly, you know, what he told me. He said, I had told the press that I'm going to call you and ask you your feelings about these things. And then he told me his feelings. And he said, very simply, you need to know that there's a question whether or not we're going to hire these four officers back. If we are going to hire Scotty Payne back. And I said, I understand that, and I think he took a stance that I very much appreciate, but tell me your feelings about that. He said, he'll not be hired on my watch. As long as it is my watch, they will not be hired. I told him that made my heart soar like a hawk, and it did. Because we offered up prayers the other day, and we stopped, and we acknowledged that Tumkasha Lamauna, the creator of all things, sees things differently than we do. We talked about that in church on Sunday. We want something, we want it right now. How arrogant of us. How full of ourselves we are. That we want this right now. We wanted it in the courtroom on Monday. We did not get it. Some of us, for the brief moments, were frustrated, hurt, angry. But as today came around, I feel a little bit better because that phone rang. And I think the Mauna Tunkasha, the creator of all things, heard all those fervent prayers that have been said. I think we'll be taken care of. But not the way that they've caused us in this greater culture, this dominant culture, has caused us to think a certain way about time. Caused us to think a certain way about expectation, and we've forgotten our own ways. We are told, and I remind you, that time over on the other side of Mauna's creation is different than it is here. We are told that. It is different than it is here. It is a short time there. It is a long time here. I think we're going to find that our prayers and petitions that we offer so fervently will be answered. One of them was already answered this morning. I will more formally talk with that chief in the next, as I have time, in the next days. And after our meeting, I told all of us yesterday, and I said this in front of the whole world, I'm going to connect with that mayor. And I went to the mayor's office. You don't know this, but if I say something, I do it. I immediately went to that office. It was closed. So I called the chief of staff. We sat, and all of you know, as we broke bread and good fellowship last night, the phone rang with the chief of staff for the mayor of Omaha and said we need to talk and we need to meet. We'll do that in the next days as soon as we possibly can. That too was an answer to a prayer that somebody offered up. And I think that's the way this is going to go. If we continue to have that resolve and that understanding and that knowledge that the Creator, Tumkashila, does not let us down. We let ourselves down in the way we think. I want this to make me feel good right now. Over time, we will. So I share that with you. So some of those things that came from this decision yesterday are already happening. And when we have an opportunity to meet with those principals from Omaha, there will be pleasantries, there will be respect, but we're not there to patronize one another, to shake hands and to talk about good things. We're going to talk about the problems that stand in the way of us getting along in the Native community, in the greater community. We're going to go and we're going to talk about cold cases. We're going to talk about the relatives that have been gone for decades. What about them? We're going to talk about all of those things. And then we're going to try to begin to understand what this is all about. I'm going to turn this over to Leo to make some remarks, but before I do that, I'm going to remind us all, and especially the relatives, something that we've said over the last several days. And I want all of us to remember and talk about every day, as hard as it is in the state of Nebraska, our relatives can go back to Oklahoma. But I want us to be remembering these things. And we remember that on September 5th, 2017, the most vulnerable man in Omaha, Nebraska, was our young relative, Zachary. Perhaps the most vulnerable man in the state of Nebraska that night was our young relative, Zachary. He needed help. We did not give it to him. And I am trying to understand it. And what I have told all of you is that, and I tried, this is the only way that I can reconcile it in my own mind, because it troubles me so much. And that is that Zachary did not see the world as we do. He did not act that day as we do. He did not express himself, perhaps, the way we do. He was different. Simply, he was different. And for that reason, his life was taken. And we can go ahead and we can take that issue and we can talk about it in courtrooms and we can explain it away and we can make ourselves feel good, but the simple reality is he was different. So he's not here. He bothered us in the way we think, so he's not here. That Nebraskans are going to have to reconcile and deal with for generations. I'm not going to let them forget that. We cannot let them forget that. And I said, and I cannot find a better analogy, and I've said this today and I will say it again. Tumkasha Mauna, the creator of all things, gave us Jesus Christ. Tumkasha Mauna, the creator of all things, gave us Crazy Horse. Tumkasha, the creator of all things, Mauna, gave us Zachary Bear Heels. We did not take care of him. All humanity should be shamed, and we are. They were sent here as teachers, if we would learn. But they were different, and we could not tolerate them. This is an indictment on all of us, and we all must wear that, all must understand that. Can find no other way to describe it to you. So I remind you of that again tonight. And lastly, what I want to share, and I'm going to chide us, how can I not? Because there's nothing fun. As we walked down the street the other day, I reminded us we're sharing good fellowship. Nothing fun, nothing frivolous about what we did. We cannot march forever. We have got to stop. We've got to heal. We've got to sort things out. We've got to come together. And that is what's happened last week, in these last days, is going to teach us a lesson about that, the need for us to come together. And we said last night, and we told the whole country this, and I'll say it again tonight. Tumkasha Mauna, the creator of all things, gave us this land to live on. Nebraska didn't give it to us. Lincoln didn't give it to us. Omaha didn't give it to us. The United States of America didn't give it to us. Tumkasha Mauna gave us this land. It was a gift. And Tumkasha Mauna, the creator of all things, gave us life. No one else did. The President of the United States didn't do that. Nebraska didn't do that. This country didn't do that. The Creator did that. The Creator gave us this land. The Creator gave us this life. And I don't want to be prophetic, but I'm going to tell you something, and I can say it now because I'm not young anymore. They've done the best they can to take this land from us. And what we seen happen in the courtroom yesterday, now they want to validate, and now they want to justify taking our lives from us. And I'm not being dramatic. They justify that I can take your life. And I think all of Indian country should hear that everywhere tonight. They justify taking your life because you're different. Each and every one of us are different. And what I saw yesterday in that courtroom is they want to justify that they can be able to take that life from us. And we've heard prayers tonight that cannot happen. Now, what we see with law enforcement is we see the beginning of us, we see that we're going to have to fight for our lives. That's the way that I see it. I'm an elder, and I'm telling all of our young people, all of those look in, that this now begins a fight for our life. Remember, we talked about this in Omaha, Nebraska, in Lincoln, Nebraska, these days, because it's going on everywhere, on women, on men. Somebody around this country tonight grieves because their life was taken from them by this dominant culture, by law enforcement. And I think it's a wake-up call that all of our men, all of our women need to come together. We need to begin to heal, but we need to begin to talk about restoring our life, protecting our lives. And that is how serious it has gotten. I'm not afraid of anything, but I want to tell you, if I'm stopped tonight, I'll be afraid. No reason to be afraid, but I'll be afraid that they might do that to me, because they can do that to us now. But I'm going to share that we need to speak loudly about that across Indian country and across this country. Nebraska set a benchmark last night. We should be ashamed of it. We said that we can justify now tasering you 12 times. All of the country, even law enforcement, have to be saying, good God, what's wrong with them? We're going to wear that in the state of Nebraska, and I'm going to make sure we wear that. And that's really important for us to know these things and to prepare. It has been an extremely hard week, one of the harder weeks that I've had, and I've had hard weeks because I cannot understand this one. There's certain things about it that bother me. And I told the chief, and I will tell city officials, I'm going to go talk to him about that court record. I'm going to talk to him about things that were said by law enforcement officials that night about our young relative, how they characterized him. And if they characterized him the way that I heard in that courtroom and the way it looks on the transcript, I think that we need to have some people in the public trust go. And I'm going to clearly ask that of a number of those officers. You need to go. And that's going to happen. So I would share that with us tonight. It has been an interesting time for us. Our relatives came from Oklahoma. They've taught us some things. And I want them to go home. And when they go home, I want them to tell the Oklahoma relatives that we went there, and our relatives in the north did the best they could, because we did. We have little, nothing, but we did the best we could, because we're all relatives. We're all extremely close. And so I think what we've done is we've unified, and I want to unify clear across Indian country to begin to deal with these things. It's going to be extremely important to us. Everybody needs to step up. I will end my remarks right now by telling you everybody needs to step up. And everybody looking in needs to step up. And I'll chide all of our male relatives, I'll chide our young relatives, our older relatives, that generation that comes after me, because I talk to you, I interact with you, and I like it. When you talk like this way, when you pump your fist, I like that. When you talk about sovereignty, I like that. When you talk about protecting the environment, I like that. When you talk about strengthening our people, regaining our culture, our traditions, strengthening that, I like that. Makes me feel good. Those words touch me. But I'm going to say something tonight. It takes much more than words. And what I see us doing is we talk good game. But when it comes time to act, something always comes up. I watched the women relatives from Oklahoma, the Kiowa relatives. I didn't see much Kiowa men here. It troubles me. They can be mad at Frank if they want. That's what I saw. I did not see my Lakota relatives here. They can be mad at me, but if they wish to. I did not see them here. I've seen our women step up for their relative. They did a good job. They did the best they could. But we have all got to come together. And where these things happen in the country, we need to gather. And we need to show everybody we've had enough. So I share those things. It's good to come to Lincoln. And it'll be, there's so much happening, so many places. You know that all of you must step up and take the lead. All you young people step up and take the lead. All of our friends step up and take the lead. You know, because sadly, I have said that I don't know if it's ever been worse than it is right now for us, especially in the state of Nebraska. So we'll do the best we can, but I would share those things with you. There's so much. Now we've learned so much that we need to say we did the best we could. We're a part of something much bigger than ourselves. And we need to continue in this fight. We need to get ready for the next round, and the round after that, and the round after that. And the only way they defeat us, I've watched this in my life for generations, the only way they prevail is when we go away. We get mad, makes us feel good, then we go away. They don't care if you get mad. We're going to march. They don't care. March every day. Oh yeah, they're going to march today. They like that. But only for a little while. A month later, you're still there. They begin to look at it. Nothing changes, and this is for all the relatives here. Nothing changes unless somebody is made to feel uncomfortable. Nothing changes unless you make yourselves uncomfortable. We saw that, we learned that this week. And I respect all of our young people. We have some young ones here. But we have others here, and I want to tell you something that made people very uncomfortable this week, and this is how it is. We watched these taser specialists come here, world-renowned, come and told the Nebraska jury, here's how it is. And told us that our young Kiowa relative did not suffer. Told us that the police department was justified in what they did with him. That it was okay to taser him 12 times and to hit him 13 times. They told us it was okay to do that. Sadly, this jury listened to them. And I watched that. And I made reference a few days ago to what I thought we were looking at. And I watched these people who come in, these taser specialists, and they were world-renowned. And I watched what they did, and some of them even own stock in taser. Now, I want you to think about that. So they can tell you everything is good, buy more. They came in and did that, but I was trying to characterize them to somebody a couple of days ago. Well, who were they? I think I was telling my wife. Well, and she said, well, who were they? Well, what are they about? Well, are they world-renowned like this? She was asking me all these questions, and I couldn't explain it. And I said very simply, Well, I cannot find any other way to characterize them than what they are was taser whores. Made everybody uncomfortable. Simple as that. I could have characterized it differently. I could have been more charitable, but they're not, so I'm not going to be. So we had these taser whores come to Nebraska to convince us of something. And just as quickly as we characterize them as such, they hear it. Even now, they're sitting somewhere saying they called us taser whores. Because that's exactly what we dealt with last week. And I cannot call them unless somebody corrects me, could call them specialists or whatever they are, but that's who they are. Even a simple characterization makes them uncomfortable. So I'm going to make them uncomfortable. I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to make myself uncomfortable. Because all that we suffer, all that troubles us pales in comparison to what happened to our young relative for 58 seconds on June 5th, 2017. So we're going to do that now. And we're going to change things, make things a little bit better. We did not come here today. I didn't get up this morning and say to my wife that today I want to make things worse. I asked the chief this morning, I told the chief, we got to work through this. And I said, Chief, when you got up this morning, did you tell your family that today you're going to make things worse? And he said, no. We work to make things better. And that's what we're here. And that's what we will do. So I say those things, and I say, Pinugiki, thank you for listening to me. And I want you to listen to my young relative over here. A good young man, a lot of respect for him. And I want him to come here and change the whole world also. Anyway, go ahead.
Hello everyone, I'm Leo Yankton, and I just want you to know that I feel a little bit insecure right now, sitting up next to Frank LaMere speaking and in front of Zachary Bear Heels' family, but in the same sense, I feel very angry right now, and experiencing, just by witnessing what happened, I feel the fear of what it would have been like to be in that situation, trapped. And I feel like I am Zachary Bear Heels, and I feel like all of you are Zachary Bear Heels, and this could happen to any one of us any day of the week. And if they don't hold people like Scotty Payne accountable for what he did, then it's more likely that we will be the next Zachary Bear Heels. And that's why I feel like it's so important that we're all here right now. Because I got a lot of people on Facebook that were telling me, I'm gonna send you prayers. But I told them, I said, we needed you in the courtroom, you know. I was there for a few days, and then I had to go to a cancer hospital. You know, that was extremely important enough to where I had to pull myself away, but I felt like I needed to be there, and I felt like I wish I could have been there till the end, and I felt like it's not over yet. And so, you know, with the family not speaking right now on this, they're still fighting this. They're still trying to hold them accountable for what they did. And guess what? Frank LaMere is still trying to hold them accountable, and I'm going to be making efforts to hold them accountable for what they did, but we're only a few. So everyone here needs to be working together to build this up, to make sure it doesn't happen to me or to happen to you, to where we are not the next Zachary Bear Heels who was lost. He was lost. He wasn't running around causing trouble. He was speaking to himself because he was frustrated, and he was scared, and he was lost in Omaha, Nebraska. This is a man who was just traveling through the state and was killed by the people who are supposed to protect us. Okay? Do I hate police? No, I don't hate police. I'm dealing with the police here in Lincoln, but one of the police officers came up to me and told me, hey, Leo, you know, I heard you had cancer, and I'm worried about you, how you doing? And he's known me since I was a teenager in high school here, and I love that man. He's been a sheriff here forever. He's getting ready to retire soon. And so it's not about us against them. It's about the system of making it to where we can be safe and we can be treated as equals and we can be seen as someone who's not a threat just because we are brown and have black hair, or just because of the class, financial class that we're living in, or if we have a mental illness. A mental illness. So no, I'm not gonna let this go. You know, just because the court says that he's not guilty, that doesn't make it reality. The reality is that a young man got let off a bus traveling from South Dakota to Oklahoma, and he was killed by the people who were supposed to protect him. He was killed not for committing a crime, but for standing at a place lost, not knowing what to do next. And then if you look at what happened with the court, oh man, what happened with the court was a horrific injustice. I mean, if you think about it, so this Sergeant Forehead, and excuse my terminology right now, okay, Sergeant Forehead, there was another officer who got up on stand and said Sergeant Forehead was referring to Zachary Bear Heels as a fucking retard. That right there alone shows you the type of, and of course he denied it on stand because who's gonna incriminate themselves when they're in a position like that? But that kind of shows you the mentality that was already happening from the upper ranks. All right? So then you get these two officers who beat and tased him and caused him to die. And then this sergeant puts those exact same two officers in the ambulance with him. And then suggests that this is excited delirium. And for them to check his core temperature to validate that reasoning. So this wasn't the coroner's report, this was the sergeant's report, and this was the two officers' report that created this loophole that caused one of these officers, Scotty Payne, the first one to go to trial, to be found not guilty. Not only that, he goes out on public media afterwards and says he wants his job back. You know, where's your remorse? You just killed a man. If you don't have any remorse and you're feeling like you want to get right back in the saddle again so you can administer some more justice to the next person who gets lost or who has a mental illness and can't defend himself verbally, well, you know, what's next? What's next for Scotty Payne? And I can't do it by myself. Like I said, I felt a little insecure about being up here because I don't know where my authority is, but I know I have a moral authority to be involved because it relates to me. Just like Frank says, Frank's an accomplished, respected man in the community, but he said if he got into a situation where he was getting pulled over, he'd feel that same fear that I feel. You know, and my plates on my vehicle are up to date. My insurance is up to date. My license is up to date. I don't drink alcohol, I don't use drugs, I don't have any weapons in my vehicle or on me. But as soon as they pop behind me or as soon as they start interacting with me, I will feel that fear of not knowing whether or not they are going to hurt me. And I don't want to feel that. So I do have a moral authority to be up here speaking, and I do have a moral authority to make sure that this doesn't just fade away because the jury said that he was not guilty. But I need your help, okay? I have guidance from Frank, and Frank is going to be working on it from his end, but as grassroots, we need to work on it together too. We need to be calling the mayor's office. We need to be calling the chief of police and ask them, how are you going to hold them accountable? How are you going to change things? You know, we can ask them some simple questions. We can write some simple letters. We can have other people that we know who are real productive and who can actually do this for us too, to get involved as well. You know, because without that pressure, people who kill us are found not guilty. And then what? Then they get hired back on, or they go somewhere else. One of the other officers is already working in another town in Nebraska. But, you know, if you look at who the expert witnesses were, one of the expert witnesses shot Micah Taylor, another native. He was sober. He was getting ready to go pick up an elder, and he was getting ready to go to a sweat lodge. And he got shot, and he's in jail with a bullet lodged in his neck right now. And I keep asking, is anybody talking about Micah Taylor right now? Is anybody checking on him? And people forget about him, you know? Well, we can't let them forget about Zachary. We can't let them forget about Micah. And we can't let them forget about the expert witness who shot Micah but was an expert witness in defense of Scotty Payne. That shows a circle of abuse. You know, the chief of police, he noticed it. But still, you can't be complacent. You can't let it keep going, and just because these guys got caught, you're gonna go ahead and throw them under the bus, but what about the rest of them? What about Sergeant Forehead? You know? Why did that officer get on stand and risk perjury or risk the retaliation of the other officers to say that? To say that he called Zachary Bear Heels an effing retard. You know? And that's the type of stuff we gotta think about. Why was the two officers who beat and tased him in that ambulance? Why were they responsible for finding out what he died from when they're the ones who were subjecting him to so much abuse? We've all felt that abuse, even if it wasn't us personally. I have personally felt it. But I'm not afraid. You know, maybe I'm naive, but I feel less fear of the retaliation of me standing up about what these injustices is. I feel less fear of that than I do of it continuing to happen. And when is it going to happen to me next? Or when is it going to happen again to someone that I love next? And that's what's important. And that's why all of you here, it's more important that you're not just listening, but that you're helping come up with ideas on how we can change this, how we can put this pressure on them. Because I have a lot of energy and I'm willing to step up in front, but I still do need guidance. You know, I don't have the experience that Frank has. And so Frank sometimes has to calm me down when I don't know what to do next. But I feel it, you know, I feel it inside here, and that's why I'm here right now. Not because I have this extensive education on criminal justice, or not because I have this extensive connections with political leaders. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because I have energy in it, because I feel like I have a moral authority to make changes in not just my life, but all of our lives. Because I am Zachary Bear Heels, and you are Zachary Bear Heels, because he is one of us. Regardless if you are non-native or if you're native, regardless if you have mental issues or you don't, regardless if you're rich or poor, you can be next. You can catch one of these officers on a bad day and get beat or tased to death. And then that officer can be found not guilty because he was the one who did the analyzing of why you died. Because that officer was the one who got to go into that ambulance and decide that he didn't kill you. Both officers who beat and tased Zachary Bear Heels got to decide for themselves that they didn't kill him. And then the coroner made that the official report. This isn't my hearsay. This is all came out in court. There's records of this. And yet, he still got found not guilty. So we have to work together, okay? Because I don't have the answers, but I'm gonna keep trying. And I'm looking for ways that we can work with the police too. To hold these people accountable, and let's bring some natives into the force, you know? Let's talk to some of the youth and let them know that you're not somebody that's bad, or you're not somebody that's going to be shunned by the community if you decide to become a police officer, because we need you in there. Because maybe if there was a native officer in there, he could have related to Zachary and said, hey, I know of this place you can go. I know where there's these natives that will help you. Let me give you this number. You know what I mean? And that's how I look at it. Like, we got to integrate. We got to start working together, and we got to start getting into these positions to where that we can make a change and that we can have a voice. And that's important. And I'm so glad that so many of you are here today, because there was only a few of us in the courtroom the few times that I showed up, and a few times before that. You know, and the more of us that show up, the more of us that put this pressure, the more change we can make, the more effect we can have. And so that's important. And it's important that we realize that it's all of us, that we are representing each other, not the person that passed away, not the family that lives in another state. We're representing each other. And we have to look past race, we have to look past class, we have to look past differences, and we got to start working together on that. And that's how I feel. So my thing that I ask all of you is, if you have some ideas for me, or if you have some things that maybe I can help you with because you want to do something, let me know, because I have a lot of energy and I'm ready. And I feel I have a moral authority, and I feel you do too. You know, when Frank goes and speaks to the chief of police or to the mayor's office, it's not done. It just started. And that's why we need to work as well at doing the same thing. Because just because he goes as one voice, that doesn't make it enough. But if we go in hordes and we contact them and we let them know that we're not happy with what's happening, and we find ways to make them accountable, and we find ways to fix these problems, that's when it's going to be enough. And that's going to take some time, and it's going to take some effort, and it's going to take us getting out of our comfort zone, just like Frank said. And that's the big thing, is I'm going to say it one more time. If you have some ideas, if you have some things that you would like to see me do even, let me know, because that's where we're at right now. We're trying to figure out the best way to hold them accountable and to fix these problems that are causing us to get abused, to get killed. I named two. I named Zachary, I named Micah. Well, what about right here in Lincoln? You know, I have a federal lawsuit against the state. I have a federal lawsuit against the police here in Lincoln with officers that were forced to resign. But you know what the state attorney told me? The state attorney told me that they allowed this officer who abused me and my family, who's going to trial for sexual assaulting a mentally handicapped woman as well, that they allowed him to resign because he needed to get his pension, because he earned his pension. You know, you can see right there that the whole thought process has worked. Because how would you even tell a victim that? How would you tell a victim that the person that victimized you, that was forced to resign from the police force, deserved his pension? So the state's paying him. My tax money, your tax money is paying him, even though he's no longer on the force. You know, these officers all resigned. They were allowed to resign. One of them went and got another job somewhere, and that's what we got to deal with. That's what we have to change. Because as long as other officers can watch these officers do that and get away with it, they're going to keep sneaking around behind cameras and doing it. Luckily, there was a camera there, but it still didn't matter. It wasn't enough. So we have to unify and we have to work together. And that's the only way we're going to change it. Not just for this group here, people watching. You know, people that are on Facebook. Those people that are listening on the outside who couldn't come here today. We need all of you in order to make this effective. Because Frank can't do it by himself. If he could, I wouldn't be sitting up here. I couldn't be doing it by myself, or I wouldn't be pleading with you to help me. Because I need help. And I'm going to keep fighting. And in 10 years from now, I want to be making sure that there's still efforts being made to make changes for us to be safe and to be successful and to be happy, because, you know, the historical trauma that we've been dealing with is still going on today. And that's what we got to change, because we don't want our kids to be all hurt and messed up and abused by the system and by ourselves. So with that, I want to thank you. And if you want to speak to me afterwards, I appreciate that as well. I'm going to let Frank close.
There's something that I have heard for the last 2 days, last 3 days, and I hear it again tonight, and I'm pleased that Leo brings this up. And I'm going to utter something that is going to, I think, going to resonate later on. And it is something that we have been hearing about in the news, and it's something I want everybody to know about. Leo mentioned a series of events that went on. He talked even about cover-up. He did not use that word, but he talked about collusion. I'm going to say and utter this tonight, and I'm going to continue to say this. We may be talking about conspiracy. We may be talking about conspiracy, an attempt to cover up a crime. And I've been listening and very carefully analyzing what everybody's been saying, and that's exactly what we're dealing with. And I think we're going to talk about that, Leo, because there's too many things that happen. And you need to know that I did talk to the chief about there's some things in the transcript I want to check on. And it has to do exactly with how those things happened. Because you're not the only one. I've heard that a number of times now. And we will see if we're talking conspiracy. And we're even going to utter that word tomorrow and as we go forward. Because that's pretty serious. And what I'm hearing from all of the relatives here, and the Oklahoma relatives, and the things we learned in that courtroom, it smacks of conspiracy to me. Too many things were said. And too many things we did not have a chance to focus on because this was a crime that dealt with specific things. The next time we get in that courtroom, we can talk about everything. And I think we probably have to. Maybe we do ask the federal government to come, the Department of Justice to come and look at that. And I want us to be thinking like that because I see it, I can feel it. There were some things that were said that we didn't focus on that I heard in that courtroom. There was one thing that he was incoherent. He did not know, a young relative, he did not know what was going on. But there's something that troubles each and every one of us as Native people, and you know what I'm talking about, and even our non-Native relatives. When he was getting victimized and brutalized, he looked, I think, to one of the officers who was not involved with that. And you know what he said? All of you know what he said. He said, "Brother," I want you to think about that. He looked at the officer that was not victimizing him, I understand. And he said, "Brother." And they said, well, that really wasn't a cry for help because he was incapable of doing that. I think that was a cry for help. And if I'm not mistaken, that officer didn't want to have anything to do with it. Yeah, I'm understanding that. He left the scene, and we need to go back and look at those transcripts and begin to find out exactly what happened. I mean, the simple is that to me, there's a breach in policy when the people who were involved in this alleged crime were the people who had an opportunity between Buc-ee's and the hospital to cover that up. And we're going to find that out. And we're going to ask those questions starting even with our chief of police. And one thing he did tell me today that was really interesting is he said that the utterance of that obscene characterization of our relative that he made, he said, I did not know about that. And I said, well, I learned about it in the court. He said, we had 2 internal investigations. Internal Affairs looked at that issue twice. Never did anybody bring that to my attention. And I found that telling, that he would say those who were to investigate did not tell me that. And it came out in the court, as you remember, and he's troubled by that. And he said, I'm going to go back and look and ask my internal affair, why did you not tell me that if you knew that? Now, he would not tell me that. Why would he tell me something like that? I think there's an intent that I'm hoping that chief has to take a good hard look at what happened. And I'm also going to say that this chief of police, respectfully, and I may have told him that, he has a lot to lose. In other jurisdictions, this chief of police would be fired because of what happened. This mayor would catch a tremendous amount of heat. The chief of staff would be fired. There's a lot on the line, and I want us all to know that there's a lot on the line for these folks. And what I see happening very soon, and when it happens, I want one of you to come and say, Frank, you said that was going to happen. One of them officials, chief of police, chief of staff, mayor, people who work in internal affairs, people who work as dispatchers, somebody's going to look when we continue to put the pressure on and to make everybody uncomfortable, somebody's going to look and they're going to say, you got me in this mess. And they're not going to do that publicly, and we're not even going to know that. It's going to be around closed doors, and you got me in this. I see that happening very soon. Already, they're criticizing the chief because he's not going to take this guy back. He's getting criticized. So he's lashing out and saying, yeah, I'll take him back. We'll take him back, but it won't be on my watch. Already. Something is wrong, and they're beginning to look at each other and point fingers. And we said those prayers the other day. And we were, I believe, assured that something's going to happen, not in the way that we understand it and not in our time, but something's going to come of this, and I believe that. Just like I believe that White Clay would shut down. I said that, we'll shut it down. Oh, it never happened. But you stay with it, and we'll stay with it, and we'll get justice. Let us not forget the need for us to go back and look at cold cases. That's going to be so important. We're going to have to go back and look at cold cases. A lot of the relatives in Omaha and in Lincoln. I was here when they shot and killed Seth Whiteface. I marched on this police department. I marched on this police department when they choked Renteria to death because he did not pay attention to the officer's commands. Only after this 32-year-old Hispanic was gone, it was then that somebody said he didn't know how to speak English. He didn't know what the command was. This police department is not above reproach. Sioux City, the shooting of Kimberly Frazier, and it's all the same. I've watched it for 25 years, and I know how they do these things. When they shoot you, it is because you lunged at them. That word, they lunged at them. 45 feet away, you lunged at me, so I killed you. Excited delirium. We're going to have to test them on that. And these fights that we have about excited delirium, maybe we have to elevate that discussion and make changes in our state, maybe even in the nation. The tasering issue, maybe we make impact not only here in Nebraska, but maybe in the nation. And because of our work here, somebody who's not even born, not going to be tasered. Somebody not even born yet. So we have to understand how that works, what it's about, and what it means, and how we get to be a very small part of change. Just one more thing I want to tell you about change. I want you to think about this because, for those many years, Leo at White Clay, we worked to shut them down. And on the first anniversary of the Liquor Control Commission shutting them down, they had a rally over there in Porcupine, South Dakota. They had a rally over there and a sobriety gathering. And they asked me to come over there on the first anniversary, and I went there, and I was happy. It was a happy occasion. They had a cake. They had little gifts. These cups had children in painted. They had songs. They had prayers. They had testimonials. And I felt very good for a couple hours, and I started to go back home. And that was going to be a long drive back. And I started to leave that night in Porcupine, and this is how I want us to think. I do not want us in our work to get full of ourselves and just do what we can. Big or small, do what you can. When I was getting ready to leave, I walked to the door. A young Lakota man, maybe 25 years old, stepped toward the door, and he didn't say anything. And I was walking toward the door, and he stepped, and he extended his hand. And I felt very good about that because he was saying goodbye to me, he was greeting me. He just extended his hand, didn't say anything. I said, "Oh, thank you." I said, "I enjoyed it tonight. It was good. It makes me feel good." And he said nothing. And then he stepped out of the way. And there was a young Lakota woman with him, maybe 24. And she stepped and she just said nothing, extended her hand. And I shook her hand and said, "Thank you, I enjoyed it tonight. It was a good night." But I thought it odd because they weren't saying anything. And then the young man and the woman stepped aside, and there was a little bassinet and there was a blue boy, blue stuff. And they stepped aside and they looked, and they said, "We want you to meet somebody." And I said, "Oh, of course." So it was to say hello to this baby, like a politician does. And I said, "Oh." And I said, "Oh," and they told me his Lakota name, and I don't remember it. And I said, "Oh, yes," and I shook his hand, and I said, "Babies like that, they love me. Babies love me." And I said, "Because I'm so ugly, it scares them, and it causes them to smile." And I said that, because that's the way we are. But even then, it was just, and I was getting ready to leave, and then he said something to me, and this is how it works with us. In our lives, we strive for humility. Our whole life, we strive for humility. And only after we are gone, when somebody steps up and says, "I knew him, he was a humble man. I knew her, she was a humble woman." Only then do we know that we've lived a good life. We strive for that our whole life. And I was taught that because he said, I wanted him to meet you. So I shook his hand, and I didn't understand it. And he said he is 6 months old. He was born after White Clay shut down. Yeah. And he said, when he gets older, they're going to tell him about that place and what it did to the people. And I want him to know when he gets older that you met the man who helped to close that. And I smiled, "Oh yes, I appreciate that. Thank you very much." And I grabbed my stuff and I left. And I had a long drive back. I thought about that all the way, and I leave you with this tonight. And about what we're doing and what it means. And I've already told you this. You know what I thought about when I came back is that all those years, all of these things, all of these marches, even getting manhandled and arrested a couple times, and all these hearings, these court hearings, these Supreme Court hearings, all this travel, all this time away from my family, all this headache, this heartache. I thought about that coming back. And I thought, the way I think, I said, I asked myself, maybe all of that was done, all those years, only so I could shake that boy's hand. And I had to think about that. Maybe all those things you went through were done only so you could shake his hand. And the question I had to ask myself, was it worth it? Will it have been worth it? And you know the answer to that question. Yes, it would. And that is the way that we have to think. I do not understand what we're dealing with right now, but who's going to benefit from this? Renita? Children not even born. Not going to know you. Not going to know Leo. Not going to know me. Not going to know any of you. That is how small and insignificant we are, but that is how important our work is. And I believe that. And we have to think that way. Here and across the Indian country, we have to find that humility again that we used to have. And we have to understand it. We have to learn and know that these little things we do are not little. That everything we do right now, preordained. Even this, preordained. All of you to be here, all of you to be looking in. And maybe somebody will learn something and we can change things. So that being said, I want to say Pina Gigi on behalf of Leo, myself, and thank you. I want the relatives to have a good trip home and be safe. And don't be taking none of this cold weather back there, you know. As soon as they're leaving tomorrow, they told me the temperature is going to get 40 degrees. And it was, we come to know you and we will stay in touch with you, with all the Oklahoma relatives. But next time, don't be wearing all that Oklahoma stuff when you come over here. We going down the street the other day and I looked around, all this Oklahoma stuff, and we turned a corner on that last route that our young relative took, and we turned that last corner, and there was a big Houston, Nebraska flag. There was a big Houston, Nebraska flag right there. And it kind of embarrassed me, you know, because I know it embarrassed them. Anyway, we shared good fellowship, and we did, because if we do not maintain a sense of humor, all of us as needy people, we would go crazy. All the listeners, I'll remind you one more time. All the relatives, remind you one more time. Hard to do this, hard to say this. Do you think that Tunkashima, do you think that Mauna would put you through all this for fun? Make you endure all this on a whim? I don't think so. We get to be a part of something that will make something a little bit better for our families, our extended families, for those generations to come. If we don't believe that, we'll all go crazy. So thank all of you. Pina, give yourself a hand and eat those cookies up. All right?
So I would like to give the family $20 myself, and I know that you don't have a lot of money, and that you came down here and you had to live for over a week here in a hotel, and it's expensive. And so I want to offer that to you, and anybody else who has any small donations they want to offer to the family. Just know that this is not a wealthy family, and that this, you know, being here and going through all this is emotionally hard, but also financially hard as well. So, you know, if you guys want to help to support as well, you can offer up. I also wanted to mention Destiny White Magpie, who was a woman here in town who got her elbow broken by the police, and another woman who they were called because they said that they were risking that she was suicidal, another Native and Black woman, and then they groped her, and the Internal Affairs didn't follow up on it, and then the chief of police, after months and months, wrote her a letter saying, "Oh, we waited too long to investigate your case, so we can't come up with an investigation about it, so we have to just let it go." So this is not just Omaha, it's happening in Lincoln too, and it's happening so much that we have to stand up now. It's time. So the first way to do it is helping this family right here, who is definitely struggling and emotionally has to feel so much conflict inside you, just because not guilty is not true. Not guilty is not true. Thank you.
Just real quick, if anybody has any questions, we want to offer the opportunity. Okay.